Hello everyone, how are you this week? I'm getting some thumbs up there. All right, I think we might start with questions today. Does anyone have any questions that they would like to ask about the assessment? We'll do it at the beginning. Everyone's good to go? It's due in just a couple of days' time now. All right, well, I've got my screen up there. Hopefully you can all see that. I feel like it's just going to be a short one today. All right, so for this workshop, I'm mostly going to talk about the critical thinking part of this module. So I'll start off with the acknowledgement of country. So I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the lands on which we meet and learn and pay my respects to their elders past and present. I also extend that respect to any First Nations people joining us today. So we're going to talk about critical thinking and problem solving. I'm going to try to break critical thinking down into its core parts so that it can feel a bit more teachable. With really simple habits like noticing what information is in front of you and asking questions about it. So what's missing? What assumptions are you making about that information? And often students will rush past that step. And we need to sort of slow them down a bit. So we want to ask questions, ask a lot of questions of the students. And sometimes students can feel like that's adversarial, like you're trying to get them to think about something and they think you're just trying to test them or trick them or something like that. So you've got to try to do it in a curious way and not an adversarial way. So you might ask questions like, well, how do we know that? What kind of evidence is there for that? What other explanations could there be for that particular thing? And encourage them to evaluate sources. So students are surrounded by information now. Some of it's high quality and some of it's not. And as part of critical thinking, we need to be able to sort the solid evidence from the noise. So you've got to try to help them pull all of that information together and to make a reasoned conclusion, even when the answer isn't perfect. And critical thinking also includes a reflective element. So we've got to notice how you're thinking. Are you jumping to conclusions? Am I relying on something just because it sounds familiar? or it aligns with my beliefs and my biases. So you've got to sort of reflect a little bit about that. One of the biggest ideas in the final module is that lifelong learning isn't simply about knowing more, it's about thinking better. And critical thinking is a skill set that lets learners evaluate claims, sift high quality information from low quality information, and make decisions that are reasoned and responsible. And I don't think I linked this particular paper, but Halpern has done a lot of writing on critical thinking, and she and her colleagues wrote this paper called Teach Critical Thinking as if our future depends on it, because it does. And I think the title of that paper sums up where we are in the world at the moment. This one's from 2019, but she's been saying that for a long time. Anyway, they argue that we have to teach critical thinking deliberately. Learners don't pick it up just by accident. The authors frame critical thinking as a set of habits and strategies that students need repeated practice with. So analysing evidence, recognising biases, checking on assumptions, and monitoring their own reasoning. What does this mean for teaching? It means we design opportunities where students practice thinking, not just absorbing. We prompt them to justify their claims. So what's your evidence? Compare different explanations and examine their own reasoning processes. The more structured and explicit those opportunities are, the more likely students are able to transfer these skills beyond the immediate task. So, as with everything we've done, we need to set the scaffolding up. We need to make it very structured at the beginning. And then as we remove the scaffolding, we can make it a little bit more discovery based. So across modules 4 and 5, we've seen how metacognition and self-regulation can support this work. And students need to notice how they're thinking, not just what they're learning. All right, so problem solving is one of the ways that we can put our thinking into action. So one of the most useful ways to think about problem solving is, again, as a cycle rather than a straight line. So first we define the problem as clearly as we can with the available information that we have. And again, this is, as we talked about in the previous module, this is a step that students will often skip over. Then once we've defined the problem, we can generate some possibilities. So a few possible approaches, a bit of brainstorming. They could be simple, they could be imperfect. And then we'll test them. So we test it, we notice what happens, then we reflect on that and we adjust. And the cycle goes around again. And it can be, fast cycle or a slow cycle, or simple or complex. But the important part is that we make changes based on the feedback from the cycle. So it's not just about knowing the right answer up front. It's about trying something, learning from it, and then revising your approach. So here's a little example problem-solving moment. We've got a scenario here. We've got a group of students building a simple paper bridge in a STEM challenge, and their first design collapses when weight is added. So without any formal instructions, most groups naturally move into the problem-solving cycle. So they'll notice what happened. Okay, the bridge folded under pressure, and then they'll generate some new ideas about how they can make supports or make it thicker, or maybe the paper needs to be folded differently. And then they'll test all those ideas. And if they don't work, they'll test a different one and a different one. I think there's some famous quote by one of those inventors, the light bulb guy, about well, I just found another way that doesn't work. So that's the thing, you know, you need to keep it positive. We've found another way it doesn't work, and eventually we'll find a way that it does work. All right. So I had a little activity for us to do. If you have a messy page full of notes from your lecture, I want you to come up with, you know, in the next 30 seconds, a couple of ways that you might try to organize that. So thinking of your messy note, type something into the chat now about ways that you might think about organizing the notes. So we'll do a little problem solving cycle together. Color code, yeah, I like it. Color code, mind map, yep. Highlighting keywords, make a chart. Awesome. Structured, make it with headings and things by topic. Okay, those are all really awesome ideas. And none of them is probably the best idea. We'd have to try it out and see which one worked the best for us. And different people will have different things that work better for them. All right, so the key point about the critical thinking is that you've got to analyze the claims, you've got to question your assumptions, you've got to evaluate the evidence. So it's a deliberate process. Problem solving, on the other hand, is what happens when you put your thinking to work. So you try something, you see what happens, and you adjust it based on the feedback. Okay, so thinking is a learnable skill, not a personality trait. So hopefully, you'll probably do lots of that in your pedagogy subjects as well. So that's all I really wanted to cover in here because I thought you guys would want to talk about the assignment that is due on Friday. So I will stop sharing and check in on how everyone's going with the assignment. Oh, good. That's good. Nearly done. That's good because what have we got? A couple more days, 3 more days, 3.5 more days. The number of questions in the discussion board has slowed down as well. There was one there about the draft checker, and I have updated the draft checker, so everyone should be able to check their drafts now. I thought there'd be lots of questions today.
Hi, Vicky.
Yeah.
Quick question here from Ben. Just with learning resources, do they need to be original in terms of, for example, I noticed websites, blogs, Wikipedia, YouTube are not permitted in this assessment. Is that entirely like? Can we potentially take a video from that? Does that mean we can't take a video from YouTube and use that as we construct a learning activity ourselves from that, or is that outright don't use those social media, like the examples there?
Because you're focusing more on the theories, we don't really need to know the actual learning resources you're using in the thing, unless it's like directly related to the theories that you're going to talk about. Reb's here. Reb, can you answer that?
Hi.
G'day.
I don't think there's a criteria around resources, is there, from memory?
No, I don't think so.
So you could just kind of be really general. You don't need to find a specific thing that you would actually use if it was in practice. So if you wanted to do an activity that was around a video, then you can just say, I'd show the students a video about blah, blah, blah. And then
Okay.
just move on to, talking about, how it's going to help you achieve what you're trying to achieve. So if you're doing some differentiation there, or if it's something about, social and emotional well-being, you would talk about what it's actually doing for them and how it links to the criteria.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you.
No worries.
All right, so I'm sharing the screen again there with the areas that you need to sort of focus on as part of the scenario. So you really need to be focusing on why you're doing things and how it's going to help. So you really want to be drawing on the theories and the scholarly literature for those things.
And just a comment on Dylan's comment in the chat. So Dylan says, I certainly wish I could reference the Cornell University defining learning outcomes page because it's chef's kiss. So you wouldn't use it as a scholarly reference, but I mean, you can still refer to it if you wanted to, or maybe that page references a theory or something scholarly as to where they've sourced it
Well,
from.
it talks mostly about Bloom's, the Cornell University thing.
Does
So
it?
your original source is, Bloom's and the research around using Bloom's as part of your learning outcomes. There's one there about writing in the past tense. Reb, how do you feel about that?
You can do either past tense or future tense. So you can say, this was the issue in the class, and to resolve that, I did this and I did that. And some people have said that they would even invent an outcome. So that resulted in blah, blah, blah. So that's all past tense. Or you can do future tense as well. So you could say, in this class, I would do this and I would do that, hopefully, resulting in the outcome of XYZ. Either's fine. It's more about showing that you can come up with appropriate ideas to overcome those challenges that are in the scenario. But it's good that you've got it in first person. That is of higher importance than whether it's past tense or future tense. Don't put the teacher should do this and the teacher should do that. Put I would do this and I would do that.
All right, well, can it be? Yes, yeah, it can be in present tense. Any of the tenses is okay, Michaela. As long as you're writing in first person, that will be fine.
First person, Jim. Throughout.
All right, well, if you don't have any other questions, you can feel free to leave when you're ready. And if you come up with questions later, don't forget to put them in the discussion because we check in there every day. And just a couple more days to go.
Yes, Dylan.
Sorry, easier to just say it instead of type it. Do we have access to all of the learning for the course material and so on and so forth after this class has ended, or does that sort of does that disappear?
I don't know the answer to that. Do you know the answer to that?
I don't know the answer to that at SCU. I know.
No, same.
Yeah, I know. I could tell you for other unis, yes, you have access, but I don't know for SCU. I think
It seems likely. It
seems
seems
pretty
likely.
standard that you do,
Yeah.
but I can't say for sure. Sorry. No one's ever asked that before, Dylan.
No.
I love your brain. You always ask stuff that's like, actually, no one's actually brought that up before. That's awesome.
I noticed that there was just a ton of material here, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is all so useful and insightful. But I am doing an assignment right now, and I don't want to spend like 2 weeks rifling through all of this material, feverishly saving every single iota of information that I expect to be relevant going forward.
Yeah, understandable. I'm sure that they don't cut you out. I mean, at the other university that I worked at, you had it for the whole time you were enrolled. So let's hope that that's what SCU does as well.
Well, I know when I go into sort of my SCU, Dylan, and it's got all of your learning units there, and you sort of go in, and that's where your info is. I can see everything that I've taught in and marked in going back over the years that I've worked at SCU. It's all just still sitting there in a list for previous terms. So I'm going to guess that that would probably happen for students as well.
Okay, good. All right.
Let's hope. Sorry, I
And
can't
Ben,
be more sure.
I'll try and find out, but I reckon it's going to be that. And what was your question, Ben?
Yeah, I noticed when you put up the resolving learning issues before that it was a little bit different to what I had. Anyway,
Yeah.
I've now looked at the due date of what I have, and it says week 6, Friday, 15th of August.
Yeah.
Is that
I think they're both the same. Don't panic about it because I thought it was the same.
all good?
That's the one from last term, and I thought that I had just used the one from last term and changed the date on it when I put the new one up. But
No worries.
yeah,
Okay.
don't stress. It's minor.
Fine.
It's a minor thing.
Yeah, no worries.
The criteria are the same though. I'm
Yeah.
almost certain that the criteria are the same because they're the same ones that we've always had.
Yeah, they are. Most of my assessment is talking about the hypothetical things I would do to improve the classroom learning strategies. Is that okay? Well, you need to respond to all of the criteria. Okay, so you need to do a self-assessment and go back and look at the rubric and make sure that you've also talked about the other things that are listed in the rubric. So have you covered off on the multicultural stuff, the social and emotional stuff, the context? I'm going by memory here.
Differentiation. Yeah. So social and emotional is criteria 4, 15%. Criteria 3 is application of differentiation. Criteria 2 is explains and justifies modifications to address the learning needs and context. And criteria 1 is identifies and discusses ways in which cultural and linguistic factors impact the performance of students in the given context. 5 is integrates multicultural elements into the instructional process to assist transfer of learning for students. And then 6 and 7 are the writing and APA. Yep, another question. I see another hand, Farah.
Hi, Vicky. So just regarding the learning outcomes that we just said, So I'm assuming I'm doing New South Wales. That's what we call the content descriptors. It's not necessary to put in those content descriptors, right? So I've chosen a KLA. Let's say I'm doing English and I want to do a narrative writing lesson, but I'm not taking out actual content descriptors from the syllabus to map
No, you don't
onto.
need to. No, you
As
don't
long
need
as
to do that.
I'm just using my narrative writing lesson to answer the criteria that the task has, kind of.
That's right. Yeah. So you don't. It's not the same as you would do in your pedagogy subjects where you write specifically about your KLAs. This is more about side-related things, like you know, the multiculturalism and the differentiation and stuff.
So that's just mentioning your learning area and like a specific kind of a lesson that you're doing, but not going into the details of the lesson, just around
Yeah,
it.
that's right. Yeah,
Thank you.
just to give you context to talk about whatever you're doing in a context rather than just randomly you've got 27 kids in the room. So just to give it some context.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. Yeah, I'm not seeing any more questions in the chat. I guess if that's enough questions for everybody, then I'll see you in the tutorial later. All right, well, I'll see you in the tutorial.